Took off, people liked it, and we took the ball and ran with it from there. So eventually it ended up being we got to record the album in a real studio, and we worked with John Hancock, who actually helped produce David Archuleta's debut album. So our play count on our MySpace player is knocking on 1 million plays right now, and that's just in a little over a year or so.
My daughter was trying to finish up Breaking Dawn. I had finished Eclipse, and I told her, I said, you got to hurry up and finish Breaking Dawn. She's like, I'll finish it. So one night she stayed up and she finished the book. Once I finished the series, I ended up going back and rereading. It had become an addiction. And I told her, I said, you forgot to tell me there was vampires and werewolves involved in this. She's like, well, I never thought about it. And I'm like, honey, I have been in love with vampires and werewolves like when I was like 5. I was like, that was the first thing you should have told me. There was vampires and werewolves in this.
First person I see, they're like about to go eat food, is Taylor Lautner. He plays Jacob, and I'm yelling to Tomoka. I'm like, oh my gosh, Jacob's here, Jacob.
We had just finished talking to Kristen Stewart, and I was like, Lindsay, like let's go cross the street. And she's like, oh, like I don't know.
And then we cross the street. My best friend's best idea of the whole trip.
Then I turned around and I was like, oh my gosh, Robert Pattinson. Sighting over there. And she's like, oh my gosh. And we were like freaking out because like we're teenage girls and like that is a movie star, hello, and he's really hot. So we were like, oh my gosh, like what do we do? And I was like, I'm gonna ask for a picture.
Of course I'm down on my phone texting my sister saying, oh my gosh, he's coming up the hill, he's coming.
He walked right up to us and I was like, hi, could I get a picture? And he's like, oh sure, like I'm Robert Pattinson, I'm really hot, no big deal. And so we both got pictures, and then out of nowhere,
all these girls out of nowhere, literally.
He's like a magnet, I swear.
Twilight Lexicon is a website that a fan can visit and find any sort of information on the different characters, the chapter summaries, a timeline of events, and it was kind of created out of a necessity that there wasn't, when I came into the Twilight fandom, there wasn't anything like that online. And being a fan of other fandoms that had that kind of a resource online, I kind of took what I liked from those other websites and put it into the lexicon and kind of developed it.
So we just kind of grew it from a little tiny website in March of 2006 that we were happy if we had, 20 people a week look at it, and now we've got over 50,000 unique visitors from around the world a day.
If you do become obsessed with something, whether it's Twilight or Star Wars or whatever it is, that you find these websites and you find other people who are just as into it as you, it makes you feel, okay, I'm okay. I'm not the only one who's crazy about these characters.
Me? Yes. You got it down. Okay, The Hillywood Show is a web show that's based on the internet that me and my sister are the creators and the directors, and we've been producing shows for about 2.5 years now, and we recently did a Twilight parody, and it's exploded, and we have over 1 million fans.
The way everyone looks at us, it's like we are from Forks, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, the Cullens exist.
I guess part of the book could be real, and I think just the fact that it could happen, there's that if factor, it makes it interesting.
Bella's house, I know it really does have yellow cupboards in it, and the upstairs bedroom's blue. And I know it's been broken into by fans to see what color the cupboards were, and that's how we know.
Actually, I had hounded our theaters back home, and I started calling the manager down there, asking him, if Twilight's coming out, are you having a special viewing? If not, can I buy the theater, can I buy a screen just to watch the movie to see how it's going to be? They said they were having a special showing, so I was like the first to get the tickets. And we all dressed up and everything and did the glitter, and I had chokers and brooches and the whole works, and everybody just had a blast with it.
They're a very unique fan base. When I started covering Twilight and I started doing the Twilight Tuesdays thing, one day in the mail I received an envelope. And inside that envelope was a big, thick 3-ring binder about this thick. And in that binder, on every page, a different fan had written in to say how much they enjoyed MTV's coverage, how much they loved Twilight Tuesdays, thanking me, like personally. Like they had looked up information on me and said like, I would write something in a blog post about how my wife was pregnant, and I would just get flooded with all these things about like, oh, I hope your baby's going to be a Twilight baby. I hope he's going to read it. They sent me a little bib that says Twilight on it. The Twilight Moms, which is a very popular organization, they made me a sign for my office that says Twilight Dad. It's very cool. It's still hanging up in my office. You wouldn't get this kind of stuff from Star Wars fans or Star Trek fans or comic book geeks or whatever. The Twilight fans are a very special breed, and it's a very wonderful fan base. And it's interesting, too, because it's so new. My only hope is that, I don't know if they've processed yet, that, look, at Star Trek came out in the 60s. How long ago was Lord of the Rings written? And these fan bases are still around.
We met about a year and a half ago. We were all members of a site called Twilight Moms, and they had get-togethers, and we met, and have been best friends ever since. Some of the best friends I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
We came because we just love Twilight. We love Twilight.
My name is Caleb Nation. I am from TwilightGuy.com, and I run a website that's about Twilight. I basically read through the books one at a time, and I go through each chapter, and I do a summary of each chapter with kind of like an opinion on each chapter of the books. I get about 10,000 visitors a day to my website, and then I have like YouTube. I have 30,000 subscribers on YouTube that watch all my videos, and Twitter. Like, so I have this whole network of sites that people go, so they can interact with each other, and I have a chat room where all the guys and all the other people can go in and talk to each other. So it's a good audience for people that go in there and actually enjoy it.
I came here because I read the books. I resisted reading the books, just like I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there who, I'm not going to read this. You know, it's a teenager falls in love with a vampire, you know, and vampire's going to kill the girl.
So I hear from a lot of guys that are in the fandom, a lot of them especially in secret in the fandom, and one of my favorite stories was a guy who emailed me and said that he wanted to read the books, but he didn't want his friends to know. So he got car magazines, and he cut the covers off of that and glued them to the front of Twilight so he could read them on the train when he went places. It's just hilarious, because I have thousands of stories from guys that send it in and tell me about how they found it and how they try and hide it and things like that. It's so funny.
Right now, if you're a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old guy and you're not into Twilight, you're an idiot, because all you need to do is just tell a few girls that, you know, you dig Edward Cullen, and you're going to have so many dates to the prom, it's ridiculous, you know?
Let me tell you what Robert Pattinson's like. 2 words, okay? He's fine. He's fine. Like, I'm embarrassing myself.
The Twilight fan base is still going to be very powerful 40, 50, 60 years from now. You're going to have old ladies who are going to remember that their first crush was on Robert Pattinson, and they'll be 70 years old. So I hope, sincerely, that 50, 60, 70 years from now, the fan base is still as pure and sweet and welcoming as it is right now. That's my hope.
I would not mind being bitten by a vampire. Sure, why not? I'm just waiting for someone to jump on me and bite me.
The best way I would explain the fans of Twilight would be enthusiastic. Their enthusiasm is amazing and super infectious. And it's very easy for mainstream culture to write off Star Trek fans or Star Wars fans or Harry Potter fans as quote-unquote freaks. And as somebody who's met a lot of Trekkies and Star Wars fans and whatever, comic book fans, I've seen some people that I might tend to call freaks as well. But the Twilight fans are a unique breed. There's no bitterness, there's no hatred, there's no jealousy amongst them. They're a very welcoming group. They love it when new Twilight fans come in and join in. They're very patient with people who know nothing at all about Twilight. They're very eager to share their books and share, this is why I love it so much.
Beneath the narrative line, beneath the surface meaning of the story, what is happening here that causes this reader resonance and response? That's what is obviously generating this thing. And that requires a little bit of literary artistry. That the woman has to be delivering some meaning and content, which is, on the unconscious level, almost always connecting with readers where they live and in their vitals. I was listening to some of the women here talk about how they read the book and they could do nothing else. They couldn't take care of their children. They couldn't cook meals for their husbands. They couldn't go to work or this and that. Somebody had to read these books because in this idea of the divine love that they were experiencing, it totally consumed them. Well, literally they described it almost as if they were making an altar call. It was evidently either an erotic or a spiritual experience of the first order. And then the way the woman's written the things is so those things overlap, that basically you have this divine spiritual love given in the context of an erotic story. Of course, sans sex, all about self-control and self-sacrifice, because everyone has died to their ego concerns.